This morning in Sunrise Early News, an Australian soldier captured by Russian forces, feared dead. The federal government launches into action. Queensland Premier under fire. David Crisafulli forced to defend his tough new crime laws that won't affect a boy charged with attempted murder. Landslide lockdown. A man leaps for his life to escape a collapsing house near Melbourne. Families forced to flee amid fears the earth will give way again. And beach ball mystery. Tiny objects close almost a dozen Sydney beaches, but what are they?
Live across Australia, this is Sunrise Early News.
Good morning. There are fears an Australian prisoner of war taken by Russian forces is now dead. Oscar Jenkins had been fighting for Ukraine when he was captured. The Australian government is this morning trying to verify reports he was executed by Vladimir Putin's soldiers.
Oscar Jenkins.
Australian fighter Oscar Jenkins in Ukraine, captured, tortured.
Yes, Australia. I'm Australian.
And now reports he's been killed. The 32-year-old sports-loving teacher from Melbourne with no military background swapped cricket for combat early last year. But he was taken on the front line in Kramatorsk, Donetsk.
Здесь делаешь что?
Солдат.
Ты ебанутый, блядь, учитель, блядь.
Australia's Foreign Affairs Department issuing a statement today. The Australian government is making urgent inquiries following reports of Oscar Jenkins' death. We continue to have grave concerns for his welfare. Even confirming that yesterday the Russian ambassador was hauled into DFAT's offices for questioning. Jenkins had been serving with Ukraine's 66th Mechanised Unit. 7 News has been told by military sources in Ukraine that Russian troops may have executed him.
This is concerning news.
Last month, the Prime Minister pledged to get Jenkins freed, demanding his rights be protected.
We always look after Australians.
At least 6 Australians who volunteered for the Ukraine cause have died since the war broke out 3 years ago. But this would be the first captured and killed by Russia. His mother and family have refused to make any public comment to date, hoping his release could be negotiated. His mental health was said to be fragile.
It's driving me crazy. The only people who are friends with me anyway are vegans.
Military sources in Ukraine had praised Oscar as a dedicated soldier, but others told 7 News that his behaviour on the front line in his final weeks had been erratic, that he'd even complained the war had been moving too slowly for him. The last known Australian prisoner of war to die was Horace Slim Madden, the Korean War, 74 years ago. Jenkins went to war an idealist. I want to help Ukraine, he told his captors, with fears now he's lost his life to the cause. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Queensland Premier David Crisafulli has been forced to defend his adult crime, adult time laws, despite revelations they won't include the charge of attempted murder. The missing offence was raised in a parliamentary debate, the government failing to introduce those amendments. When pressed, the Child Safety Minister was unable to explain the situation.
I am not the minister responsible for those laws, and I have not been fully briefed on that case or in regards to those laws.
It comes after a 63-year-old Coles worker was viciously stabbed at a shopping centre in Ipswich, allegedly by a 13-year-old boy. The woman is fighting for life after undergoing emergency surgery. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has held an urgent meeting with leaders in Victoria and New South Wales to tackle rising anti-Semitism following a string of attacks against the Jewish community. The leaders say they're united in cracking down on threats and violence. Federal police have already set up Special Operation Arvalite to investigate and prosecute offenders. As of last week, the task force was investigating more than 100 reports of such crimes. To breaking news, Matilda star Sam Kerr has fronted court in London for a hearing ahead of her delayed trial. Kerr is accused of the racially aggravated harassment of a police officer during a dispute over a taxi fare while on a night out in southwest London 2 years ago. The 31-year-old pleaded not guilty to the charge in a London court in March and denies the allegation. Kerr's trial is set to be heard in February. Powerful Santa Ana winds have returned to Los Angeles this morning, and there are growing fears they'll reverse the progress being made in the battle against those deadly wildfires. Live to US correspondent Miley Hogan, who is in the Pacific Palisades. Miley, residents in high-risk areas have been put on alert.
Angie, they have. They've been told to be prepared to go if and when that order does come down. The power to a lot of those high-risk suburbs as well has also been shut off. Those preemptive steps from authorities trying to minimise the risk of those already burning fires and those Santa Ana winds causing any new flames. Right now, we're in the Pacific Palisades, the heart of the destruction of this fire. But as you move further down the hill, there are homes that are still standing, and that is where you will find hundreds of firefighters and dozens of trucks who are ready to strike if those winds do pick up and take those flames with them.
Life-threatening and destructive and widespread winds are already here. For this significant wind event, we are taking an aggressive lean-forward posture, and the LAFD has staffed all available resources, strategically placing fire patrols and engines in the unimpacted high fire risk areas in the city.
So as you just heard, those Santa Ana winds have arrived. They are expected to strengthen over the coming hours and stick around until tomorrow. They are watching them very closely, but hopefully later in the week, those crews will get a reprieve when the weather is expected to take a turn. Angie.
Thank you, Miley. A holiday truce between Sydney's rail workers and the government is officially off, with commuters warned of delays and cancellations across the rail network today. Rail unions are considering a 14% pay rise over 4 years on top of their $120,000 salaries. Union bosses say they are unlikely to accept the offer and need to put it to a vote. The government is asking unions to respond by Thursday. We can show you new video this morning of the moment a ride-share driver was held up at knife point during a terrifying carjacking in Sydney's southwest. He was washing his car when he was ambushed. The thieves stole the vehicle, then crashed into another car soon after injuring a woman.
Walked here to Macquarie Fields Police Station and reported the incident to officers. An alert was sent out, and 45 minutes later the same sedan was involved in a crash in Ambervale.
The trio is still at large today. A federal police officer has narrowly avoided serious eye injuries after being stabbed with a pen at Perth Airport. When a disorderly passenger was pulled from a Jetstar flight arriving from Sydney, she tried to wrestle free from officers. One was jabbed in the face and the neck.
Police officers are not punching bags, and they should not be subjected to violence.
That officer is taking time off work to recover. The passenger has been charged and faces up to 13 years in prison. The ABC is being accused of a cover-up for delaying the release of a review into how it ignored warnings and broadcast adopted audio, adding gunshots to battle footage from Afghanistan. 7 News can reveal the public broadcaster has sat on the final report for more than a month.
Not only does it add insult to the injury, but it just creates a massive loss of respect and trust for the entirety of the ABC.
The report was ordered in September and should have been released a month later. Police in Victoria are stepping up their hunt for two bumbling firebugs accused of setting a car and then themselves on fire outside a home in Wangaratta on Saturday night. One of the suspects used the stop, drop and roll technique to extinguish the fire. The other stomped on the ground. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Just 5 months on from the Paris Games, more than 100 Olympic athletes have returned their medals over complaints they're rusting. Skateboarding bronze medalist Nigel Houston shared online just how much his medal has deteriorated. French media reports management at the company that produced the medals has been sacked due to the blunder. The ICC assuring athletes the medals will be replaced and engraved identical to the originals. One of America's biggest fast food chains is about to open its first Aussie store. Wendy's is opening on the Gold Coast today. It's famous for its Baconator and square-shaped meat patties, as well as its savvy and sometimes savage social media roastings. The outlet will feature food designed for the Australian palate.